Major elections are taking place all across the country. Tomorrow in Louisiana, voters go to the polls to choose their next governor. The African-American who's running, Dr. Shawn Wilson, polls show he is operating second place to Attorney General Jeff Landry. But what is black voter turnout in Louisiana? Activist Gary Tabor Jr. joins us right now. Gary, always glad to have you on the show. You broke down the numbers more than a week ago. What do they look like today?
Well, Roland, thank you for having me and having this discussion. We are looking like about 26% of the turnout overall was black voters in early voting, which is higher than what it was in 2019 when Bel Edwards won the governor's race, which says that black voters are paying attention to this election. We need that to be about 34% tomorrow on election day. So we need people to, before they go to Southern and Grambling and Southeastern for homecoming, to get up and go vote for Shawn Wilson tomorrow morning, because it really does matter what is going to happen in the future of this state if we get Jeff Landry as our governor.
And look, and not just those HBCU folks. Look, I tell people all the time, you know, there are 247,000 students at the nation's 107 HBCUs. 20% of them are non-black. You got 1.5 million black students at PWIs. So it's a whole bunch of black folks who are going to, let's see, you know, LSU, going to Tulane, going to all of these other universities, people who don't even went to college out there. And I keep saying to black folks, if we push our numbers to 50, 60, 70, 75%, we can decide the whole election.
That's it. That's it. Because black people make up 34% of the state of Louisiana. We have 900,000 registered black voters in this state. And if those black voters activate tomorrow, we will send Shawn Wilson to a runoff with Jeff Landry. And he is in a position to be the first black man elected governor in the state of Louisiana since 1972. That person was not elected. They ascended to the office from being lieutenant governor. So there's never been a black person in the second blackest state in America elected governor. And it's not just because he's black. He's the former Secretary of Transportation. He has a PhD. He's a former professor. He knows where the light switches are in the state capitol, and he has a plan for how we make this state safer, stronger, and better for all of the people of the state of Louisiana, not just some.
What are you seeing in terms of on-the-ground voter mobilization? I'll tell you, I put the word out to some people challenging them, and I haven't seen prominent national black leaders going to Louisiana, holding rallies, doing events along those lines, and I even asked a few and didn't get a response from them.
Well, what I'll tell you is the people that represent us on the national level, or who have represented us on the national level, do not make it seem possible for a black person to win. So when people around the country look to Louisiana, they talk to certain voices. We need to change the voices that we're listening to. A black person can win in the state of Louisiana. We need the resources and the mobilization, and we need you to activate the people that you know within this community. We can't reach everybody by ourselves. Everybody has their own sphere of influence, and we should use that sphere of influence to help this brother, not because he's black, but because he's black and qualified, because he has the skill set, the plan, the vision, and the ability to do the job. And so it is a disappointing thing sometimes as somebody who's actively pushing this. You know, last year I ran statewide. I'm not what Shawn Wilson is. What is the excuse this year? This black man is the pedigree, has the ethics, has the plan. We should be putting all of our muscle behind him instead of focusing on things that don't impact the livelihoods of American citizens.
You said something that was critical a few moments ago when you said Louisiana, the second blackest state in America. People always talk about Mississippi, but they don't bring up that fact of Louisiana. And as you said, the numbers are there. 900,000 eligible registered black voters. They simply got to be activated. And I know Black Voters Matters out there trying to do their work, but you also got the resources to make it happen.
That's a fact, man. You know, the organizations that do the work here work tirelessly. There's an organization in New Orleans called Voices of the Experienced Vote. They do a great job mobilizing voters around the state. but they need more resources. And the people that are activating and doing this work need more resources. Roland, we didn't have very competitive legislative races this year, so we need the attention to be on these statewide races in order for Shawn Wilson to be able to get over the hill. And listen, he's going to make it to a runoff tomorrow night. He's going to get the numbers. Black folks got to show up and do what they got to do tomorrow. I believe that they will get him to a runoff. But November the 18th, we got 30 days to ensure that he becomes the next governor of Louisiana. Otherwise, Louisiana becomes like Florida, like Texas, more radicalized, more against the progress of all people. And we don't need that. Jeff Landry's already suing currently in federal courts to block black people from getting a second majority-minority district like Alabama just got. The Supreme Court said that we had to do it. And Jeff Landry, while he's running for governor, is fighting from us getting that second black majority seat.
Well, explain that again for the folk who don't get it, Gary, in terms of what Louisiana will be like under a Jeff Landry as governor.
If Jeff Landry becomes the governor of Louisiana, we can be assured that there are going to be conversations about education that aren't about educating our children. We can be sure that there are going to be conversations about removing books from school. We can be sure that he's going to talk about AP African American studies, because Jeff Landry is much like one of the last Republicans that we had as our governor. He's going to be focused on trying to be the president of the United States while he's governor. And so the Republican Party is at a point where in order to be the next guy up, you got to be the most radical person in the position that you're in. And Jeff doesn't have a problem with that. He sues over every cockamamie idea that he comes up with that strips away liberties from people, that limits access. This man just sued to try to prevent people from getting health care in the state of Louisiana while he was running for governor. That is not somebody that we want to actually have the ability to have the veto power. Right here in Louisiana, the governor has a power to line item veto. That means the governor can look at anything in the budget and line item veto that out. We need a governor that's going to work against the ideology that is stripping away our liberties, and somebody who's focused on the right things. Jeff's going to waste our time. He's going to waste our tax dollars, and he's going to put us in and make us a laughing stock of the nation. We already ranked number 50, Roland. We don't need to be worse than we are.
You know, a lot of black people. See, this is the thing for me in terms of how I believe in connecting the dots. It's a whole lot of black people who come to Louisiana every year for Essence Festival. Essence Festival is not just the largest economic engine in Louisiana, it's the largest live event in the country. And so here's my whole point to black folks who are all across America. Don't just come down to Louisiana for 3 or 4 days in July and not realize that you can have an impact putting those same type of resources behind the black guy who's running for governor, and then he's running the whole state. And that's the thing it's the hardest thing for me to when they talk about 350, 400,000 people, 450,000 coming, being a part of Essence Festival. Well, guess what? All those Essence Fest folks should be saying, how do we make this brother governor?
Let me tell you why that is significant and why it matters. Essence, like any other festival or any other the Super Bowl, when those things come, the state incentivizes those things to come. Just recently, in a joint legislative committee, they blocked a healthcare district. The legislature blocked a funding for a healthcare district in New Orleans. Okay, why is that significant? They are working against anything that is happening in New Orleans because they're saying that crime is high. They're not helping address the education issues. They're not helping make the city stronger. They're just saying, we're not going to give you any state dollars for anything in New Orleans if we don't like what your crime plan is, because that's what we have the power to do as a Republican legislature. What do you think is going to happen when the funding for all of these things that are culturally important to black people are up for the legislative people that are under the thumb of Jeff Landry? They're going to work against New Orleans. They're going to work against Baton Rouge. They're going to work against Shreveport. When you look at the headway that we have made in getting investment into these communities, the resources that Congressman Carter has brought in, the work that's been done over the last 8 years with John Bel as governor, we wouldn't have Medicaid expansion in Louisiana if black folk didn't elect a Democrat as governor. When John Bel was elected, he was elected with 700,000 votes. Of those 700,000 votes, over 450,000 of them were black people. And so he would not be governor if it were not for a majority black people showing up for him. So we have to have that same energy and tenacity for a black man. And if you are on the national level and you care about these things, if we don't get this man in, some of the things you enjoy, you may not enjoy as much.
Again, it's just trying to get people to understand the stakes. Gary, hold tight 1 second. I'm going to go to a break, come back. My panel's got some questions for you as well.
Folks, welcome back to Roland Unfiltered. Gary Chambers Jr. is our guest. He's out of Baton Rouge, activist there. We're talking about the Louisiana election tomorrow. African-American voters could play a huge role in the election of the next governor. You've got MAGA Republican Jeff Landry, who's leading in the polls. You got former head of Transportation Secretary in Louisiana, Dr. Shawn Wilson, who is running second in the polls. They are positioned to be the two candidates to go to the runoff taking place on November 18th. Gary, the key is, again, no candidate is going to get a majority of the vote there. And so the top two, because you have a jungle primary in the state, the top two vote getters, they advance to the runoff. And I think part of the problem with not just African Americans, but also your white Democrats across the country, is that they have this attitude, especially these white consultants coming out of D.C., Democratic Governors Association, DSCC, DCCC, DNC, all the different people. They think, you know what, the South is lost. But that's a lie. You lose because, one, you don't run. You lose because you don't put the resources behind. And so if you look at the numbers, there's a pathway to victory if folks, again, would put the dollars where they are needed in order to run ads, hire staff, have GOTV efforts to be on the ground. That's how you do it.
It's absolutely how you do it. I think that when you look at what the investment is, the candidates that are running in Louisiana, you know, are not raising the millions of dollars in comparison to what we saw in Georgia. But what you saw in Georgia is when you make the investment, the possibility of a victory is there. And now there are two Democratic senators from the state of Georgia that are helping save democracy right now. If we didn't invest in that state, then you would not get that turnout in that state. If you make the investment in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, you'll see different outcomes. And as a result, you'll have different democratic outcomes for the people that live within those communities. But we have just abandoned it and then it just said, oh, it'll turn around. You know, and Roland, I normally wouldn't do this. I'm just going to call it out. Where is Cedric Richmond right now for Shawn Wilson, right? When we talk about the national level, if Biden isn't supporting Shawn, if the people at the federal level aren't supporting Shawn, it's probably because Cedric Richmond isn't helping create that conversation on a national level for the people of Louisiana, for any black candidate that's running statewide.
Hey, that's a damn good question. And it's also one, again, for the DNC as well. Matt Manning, Civil Rights Attorney at Corpus Christi. Matt, welcome to the show. Your question for Gary.
Yeah, first, good afternoon, brothers. I want to say, Gary, you know, I got to push back on something you said. You said earlier you didn't think you had the right pedigree that Dr. Wilson does, and I think you do, because I think you have broken down the issues here masterfully and spoken very directly in a way our politicians don't these days. So I hope that you continue seeking office, because we need brothers like you in the good fight. My question for you is this. I know John Bel Edwards before did better than a lot of the other, you know, Republican, because he's a Democrat, of course, Republican candidates in Louisiana, and that he won the strongholds that you would expect in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and other places. But what is the polling looking like for Dr. Wilson in the non-metropolitan parts of Louisiana? Where does he have to do particularly well? What parishes to get over the hump when he comes out of this primary?
Well, thank you, brother, and I'm going to keep pushing. I will tell you that Shawn is doing great in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Shreveport, but there's still Lafayette Parish, Calcasieu Parish, Evangeline Parish that he's got to do well. He's got to do well in Slidell and Hammond in the areas of central Louisiana like Rapides Parish where Alexandria is. He's got to be able to turn out black voters in all of those communities. progressive, forward-thinking white voters in those communities. Up in Monroe, there got a lot of black folks in Monroe, Louisiana. There are places in Louisiana that people have never heard of that are full of black people and full of forward-thinking white folks who want to see things different in this state. There's just not the resources to activate a lot of those people. But where Shawn is going and having conversations, people are responding, and I think they're going to show up. And right now, black folks have shown up 1.3% higher than they did in 2019 for John Bel. That's not a whole lot, but that is an encouraging thing, which I hope that more people are going to take it serious and get up in the morning and go vote. Because, you know, if you look at what has happened in Louisiana, you know, John Bel and I have had our share of disagreements, but I recognize that having a Democrat as the governor of the state of Louisiana has saved us from being as radical as other southern states. And I know that we could go even further with somebody like Shawn Wilson in the governor's office.
Particular. Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Gary, thanks for coming back on. This is extremely important. Earlier, you mentioned the first black governor of Louisiana. You said 1972. I think you meant 1872, PBS Pinchback.
Correct.
Number one.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Number two, last week we had Amari Hosang on from Black Voters Matter. And one of the things I brought up was the Louisiana State Constitution of 1898 and how it's still impacting politics today in Louisiana and impacting the conditions of African Americans. How do you connect the state constitution and the history of that state constitution being put in place to disenfranchise African Americans politically and oppress them? How do you connect that to where African Americans are today?
Brother, Louisiana needs a radical transformation in our state legislature as well as a constitutional convention once we get a sensible legislature. We haven't had one since the 70s, but we were one of the only states until a few years ago that allowed you to be convicted with 10 out of 12 jurors, right?
It was 9-3 originally. It was 9-3 originally based upon that state constitution. That was something I was going to get to, but go ahead.
And then we have right now so many laws and policies. We still have slavery in the state constitution. We still don't want to take slavery out of the Constitution. We put that on the ballot last year. It didn't pass, right? That we just aren't decent enough right now to just say, you know what, let's take the word slavery out of the state constitution. This is a real issue that a lot of citizens don't recognize on its face, but what the government says on paper matters, because when the government says something, they apply that to your life. And if you don't make them change what that is, then at any point they feel that they can directly or indirectly impose that will upon you.
Right. Roland, do you have a question? I just wanted to interject something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for everybody who doesn't understand, when the Louisiana State Constitution was passed in 1898, it had a clause in there that stated that for many felonies, for you to be convicted, instead of it being a unanimous vote by a jury of 12, it was a 9-3 vote. They did this specifically because if you had because African Americans could serve on juries based upon that state constitution. They did it to reduce the power. If you had 3 African Americans on that jury, they did it to nullify that vote. So there's a deep history when it comes to these state constitutions. They're directly impacting us today. The more we understand those state constitutions, the more we'll realize why voting strategically matters today and how laws and policies shape every aspect of our lives.
People are still in jail from it right now, brother. There are people who are convicted on 10-2 convictions, 9-3 convictions that should be retried, should have the opportunity for that evidence to be reheard, that are still serving in Angola Penitentiary right now, which is one of the worst penitentiaries in this country and really on the face of this earth, because it's just a terrible place.
Yeah, it was built on the land that was a former slave plantation. That's where it gets its name from. The majority of those slaves came from Angola. That's where it gets its name from.
All right, then.
Hopefully you learned a lot today. And be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays, normally 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. theafricanhistorynetwork.com to register for the online classes. And right on the homepage, scroll down, you see information about our radio show. We're on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast on our social media platforms. My class is Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place, okay? So you can join us Saturday, October 7th and 14th. And 21st and 28th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a couple of videos here you can watch as well. To the previews. The class is on sale $80, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. Actually, we dropped the price to $60. So on sale $60, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Okay. So even after the class is over with, you still have access. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire course. Sundays, I teach Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. So we're going to have another session of this class coming up October 14th. Okay. Sunday, October 15th. We'll have another session of this class coming up Sunday, October 15th. So as soon as you register, you can go watch the previous classes. This class is on sale $40. As soon as you register, you can go back and watch the previous classes, and you'll be ready to join us Sunday, October 15th. Also, if you'd like to stop for information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior is not over till we win Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family. Do it for the culture. Go to readingrevolution.org and get your